Welcome to Mindfully Fit and Intelligently Active with Paul and Orla.
Hello and welcome to Mindfully Fit. Today I am joined by Jordan Syatt. Jordan is a well-accomplished guy, a world record powerlifter, Westside barbell and precision nutrition coach, and he is currently Gary Vaynerchuk's personal trainer. Anyone who's been following me for long enough knows I am insanely, hugely influenced by Gary Vaynerchuk. He has given me a tremendous amount of confidence, so to be joined by Jordan is massive for me today, so thank you for that. Jordan is contracted to train with Gary every day for 3 years with no holiday and gets flown around the world everywhere he goes, so it's quite the commitment. We are going to be talking all things fitness, nutrition, mindset and just general life, so thank you for joining, Jordan.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
So can you tell everyone listening a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, for sure, man. So just like as a brief background, I grew up as a wrestler my whole life from like 8 years old, and then that's how I sort of got into fitness in the first place. So I started wrestling, and then I unfortunately did really well. I made varsity as a freshman, and then the whole big thing was I had to cut from 112 pounds to 103 pounds every week for competition, and so that's where growing up I was a good wrestler technically and a good wrestler like from a conditioning standpoint and technique-wise, but from a strength perspective, I wasn't. So I sort of had to figure out, okay, if I was going to really be competitive, how to lose weight and build strength and basically get stronger and leaner at the same time, which was the major, it's like what everyone wants. So I was really fortunate from a very young age. I got my first personal training job when I was like 14, to be surrounded by people who were incredible. Like really amazing science-based coaches. I didn't really have much of a bro science phase and like dig too much into the muscle magazines or anything. I was really thrust into a very science-based world at a very young age. And then and from there it sort of just steamrolled. I did that all through high school. Between high school and college I took a year off and traveled, and I did that then. I still coached people. And then from there, when I finally went to college, I was competing in powerlifting and fortunately did very well there. Trained at Westside Barbell, Cressy Performance, started my website when I was like 19 or 20. And basically when I started my website, my whole goal, it wasn't a business. Like I didn't start it with the idea of building a business. I started it with the idea of just writing about my own training and my own learning and nutrition and sort of helping people through that. And then out of nowhere, it sort of turned into a business where people were asking me from all over to write their training programs, nutrition guidelines, sort of just keep track of them. And I was 20 years old at the time, and I had no idea what was going on, but it sort of just kept going and kept building. And the one major theme was the more good content that I put out publicly, the more my business grew and the more people I've been able to help. And that's sort of where I'm at now. I'm coaching Gary Vaynerchuk 7 days a week and building my own online business as well.
That's amazing. You mentioned there that you weren't heavily influenced by the bro stuff, by the Muslim fitness magazines. Was that something you decided to deliberately niche or try the route you wanted to go down in terms of coaching clients? Is that something that you feel is very important right these days with all the kind of the bro science and bro advice out there?
In terms I'm not totally sure I understand the question. Do you mean in terms of avoiding that stuff?
Yeah, avoiding that stuff. Your content, your content, everything you put out there seems to be very aimed at real people. It's very the what I would call that applies to 99% of the real public and excludes the 1% of the elite. Train hard, eat well, count your calories. Don't worry too much about supplements. I assume that's a very deliberate thing to weed out.
100%. Yeah, 100%. It's the reality is, I actually, if someone applies to work with me in my coaching program, I have a document that I'll send them which outlines with the requirements and the disqualifications. And I actually do not work with figure competitors or bodybuilders. I won't allow it. And that's to the point where that's just so far from what I'm trying to do. The reality is a figure competitor or bodybuilder, it doesn't take a great coach to get them results because usually they're so strict and so on point with whatever. You could tell them to eat cardboard and tuna fish forever, and they would do it because that's what they want to do. They want to look a certain way. For me, I'm much more focused on real life people, on people who are doing everyday things. They have a family, they have kids, they have a job. Like, I want to help people who want to make fitness part of their life, but don't want to make life all about fitness.
Amazing. I couldn't agree more. It's actually how I started. When I got into fitness myself, within 9 months, I had gotten so there's only one way to do this. I ended up doing a bodybuilding men's physique show, and I decided it was everything I didn't like about fitness. And it was then, and only then, a couple of years back, I decided and realized there's more than one way. There's a million ways to skin a cat. So I'm going to ask you, because my business is very similar to that of yours, what are the 3 most important things that you knew now that you wish you knew before working out?
Let's see. There's a bunch, man. I think I think probably the number one is that not everyone is so excited to work out. Like, not everyone is like gung ho on it. Not everyone will be either. I think it's one of those things where a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, no, like just start and you'll eventually love it," and that's just not true. There are some people who just are gonna fucking hate it, and it doesn't mean they shouldn't do it. But what it does mean is that if you're a coach, you have to change your approach to how you talk with those people and how you work with those people. And basically, it comes down to shaming them and yelling at them or getting mad at them is not the right way. And that could be if you're a coach, or it could also be if you're a spouse of someone who doesn't like to go to the gym or doesn't like to eat well. Like, a lot of times people revert to like yelling or screaming or shaming or whatever, and it never works out that way. Like, the more you can support someone and encourage them, the better, and it'll always lead to a better result. So that's number one on that. I'd say, what else? I wish I knew that, like, when I first started, that I wish I knew that taking a rest day was like really good for you. Like, I wish I knew that, like, you didn't have to work out 7 days a week or even 6 days a week or even 5 days a week. I think most people, when they first start really getting into this stuff, they like almost get anxiety if they take a rest day. They're like, oh my God, like, I can't be out of the gym, like, I'm going to lose all my progress. And I feel like the more people know that taking a rest day is actually going to be help you in the long run is really important. And then finally, I think the most of all is understanding that consistency is more important than finding the best program of any kind. I don't care if the best training program, the best nutrition program, if it's not sustainable, if you can't do it consistently, you're going to fail. So, like, I think that for me was one of the hardest parts to learn as a coach, in terms of like, well, no, but like, science says this is best. It's like, well, yeah, that's great, but that means jack shit if no one's going to follow it, right? So it's like, you have to really like find the balance between what's consistent and sustainable versus like what's supposedly best as science says.
Absolutely. It's something I always actually say, is that science doesn't always take into account circumstance in people's individual lives. So that has to be very much catered for as well when coaching and programming the general public who lead busy lives with kids and stuff.
100%, man. I like that. Science doesn't always account for circumstances. I like it a lot.
It's something I very much live by, especially when I'm coaching my own clients and they struggle or they can't be what they would call adherent or perfect, and they kind of beat themselves up. The whole, just because I've slashed, or just because I got one tire punctured means I'm going to go slash the other 3. They beat themselves up because they don't live to almost this perfected standard of what you should eat and look like, and that's just not the way it is. It's not the way it should be.
100%, man. I'm with you 100%.
Jordan, you're doing very well. You're clearly successful and your business continues to grow very well. So I'm genuinely wondering, out of curiosity, do you have any particular rituals or thoughts, or do you have any daily routines that you do every day without fail to make sure that you stay on a very attacking, on a very ambitious path?
Yeah, so I think, number one is, it's going to sound weird, but I make my bed every morning.
That's not weird at all. That's a metaphor for how you start the day. That's great.
Yeah, so it's funny, like, in recent years, what I started to do was, the first thing I started to do is something that I don't want to do. Like, that I just absolutely have no desire to do whatsoever. And making my bed is, like, for whatever reason, I fucking hate it. It is like absolutely awful. So for me, by starting off the day with a win, by essentially an action of discipline, it sort of sets me up mentally to really crush it. And I try and so actually just recently picked this back up again. But for a long time, I would write my goals down every single morning, and I stopped for a little while, and like surprise, when I stopped, I also sort of got a little bit more complacent. But recently started writing my goals down again, and man, just lights the fire under my ass big time. So like that's something where I definitely want to keep on going with that. Where like understand what my goals are, how I want to achieve them, write that down every single day. That's how I start the day.
Okay, very, very good, very interesting. I'm the opposite. I don't write anything down, and every successful person I aspire to is you need to write stuff down. So I think too many people are telling me not to give it a go.
Yeah, man, honestly, it's one of those things that it sounds hokey pokey and like, well, what the hell is that? Like, just do it. But like, I'll tell you, man, like, there's nothing more motivating in the morning than like writing down exactly what you want to accomplish and then like how you're going to get it done. And like, man, it'll really light you up for the day, and like it's incredible. It's like it's one of those small little things that before you do it, you're like, well, that sounds stupid, and then you do it, and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I haven't done this yet.
Man, the power of visuals is amazing. I've absolutely no doubt on that one. Jordan, a lot of the time when I'm talking to my audience, a lot of what they're dealing with, for me, for example, something I heavily believe in, something I'm very passionate about is if health and fitness and loving yourself and body composition and being in a good place, if it was as scientific as eat healthy and go to the gym, we'd all be walking around like fitness models. But a lot of people I like would talk to on a daily basis suffer from it's a bit of a lack of confidence, a lack of motivation. You know, it's kind of the same general themes. So talking to someone like yourself, are there any particular mindset shifts or base philosophies that you might have always had that you feel that have changed your life? Any particular philosophies, anything you could advise people who suffer from low self-esteem that just want to get healthy and feel better, in not just in fitness, Jordan, but in life in general?
So how to improve their self-esteem?
Yeah, their confidence. I know a lot of people I talk to are genuinely afraid to go to the gym, for example, for fear of being laughed at. I know a lot of people are afraid to put like content on the internet or start up a side hustle business for fear of being laughed at, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and like I think there's a lot of reasons for why people are too scared to do it, too afraid to do it. Like if we're talking about like. But let's say we're talking about personal trainers who are afraid to put content out online. Usually it comes down to they say they're scared of being wrong. Like they don't want to be like wrong and have someone call them out. And the way I quell that one really quickly is like, what happens if you're wrong? Like they're like, then I'm wrong. I'm like, okay, and that's it. Like that's literally the worst that happens. Is like worst that happens is you're wrong. And then you fix it. And it's so funny because to me it's so interesting how people are so worried about being wrong when you're actually put in the situation of being wrong. It's a very simple fix, but it is very telling because if you look online, when someone says you're wrong, or if you look at like a debate between two people and someone is clearly wrong, they will fight tooth and nail to prove that they aren't wrong, even though in their heart they might know that they are.
Yeah.
And it's so because they would rather lie or they'd rather convince themselves or dig themselves in a deeper hole of I'm right and like I couldn't possibly be wrong than just say, you know what, wow, I never thought of it like that. You're right. And that's the best way to handle it. If you're ever wrong, all you have to do is just say, wow, never thought of it like that. You're right, thank you. And you always look good. You always look good by being able to be open and non-dogmatic and be like, yeah, like, thank you, I appreciate that. Whereas if you just fight tooth and nail to prove that you're not wrong, you look like an idiot. It's like, all you have to do is be honest and open. And so I think like most people who are worried about the idea of, or even you could even take that to people who are going to the gym and they're afraid to look stupid. First and foremost, no one gives a shit what you're doing. That's number one.
That is so true. Nobody cares.
No one, you go in the gym and you're worried because you think everyone else is looking at you. What makes you think that everybody else in the same room isn't wondering the exact same thing? Like, if you are in there worried what other people are thinking, other people are in there worried what other people are thinking, to the point where, guarantee, like, you're probably looking at someone, being concerned what they're thinking, and they're probably like, why the fuck is that person looking at me? What am I doing wrong?
Yeah, Jordan, now more than ever in society, everybody's so like working on themselves and self-involved. Nobody gives a shit about anybody else.
No one cares.
No.
No one cares.
No.
It is like totally irrelevant. That's number one. And number two, like, even if someone did care, even if there was, like, some, like, fucking asshole who was in there judging you, who cares?
Yeah.
He's an asshole, he's judging you. Like, who cares? Like, it's so funny. Everyone talks a big game, and a lot of these people tell their kids, they tell their friends, oh, come on, like, if someone doesn't like you, if someone's being a dick, just don't pay attention to them, it doesn't matter. But then when it comes to themselves in a situation like going to the gym, all of a sudden they're, like, nervous what people think. Why the fuck do you care what people think? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't even have to talk to them. You can put your headphones in. You can keep your head down, do you. Like, don't even look at them. Like, just, it doesn't matter. And the reality is that that's going to keep you from going after your goals. From, like, if you really want to go to the gym, if you really want to work out, if you really want to eat right, if you really want to start a business, but the idea of what someone thinks of you is enough to deter you from it, then you really didn't want it that bad.
Yeah. And you even something I'm always saying to people that are afraid, this one wouldn't even hit home with them because it's just not currently glossy enough, if you get me. But I'd hate to look back in 40 or 50 years knowing that I was stopped from being the happiest version of my young self for fear of what people may think. It didn't even exist as such.
I'm with you, man. It's so funny. Like, the question that I always ask is, when you're 90 years old, are you going to look back and say, like, man, I really wish I didn't make that YouTube video?
Yeah.
Or are you going to look back and say, like, shit, I really wish I did? And it's funny because, like, a lot of guys deal with this issue. A lot of guys are, like, they won't go talk to a girl, for example, because they're nervous that she'll say no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, worst comes to worst, she says no. Like, that's it. She's not going to bite your face off.
Yeah.
Like,
you're not going to get any...
Hey, listen, like, I saw you over there. I thought you were really cute. Wanted to come say hi. And, like, they get petrified and, like, no. I'm like, listen, when you're 90 years old, are you going to look back and say, I really wish I didn't talk to that girl at Starbucks? And, like, you're not even going to remember the whole situation if you go do it and she says no. But if you don't do it, you're going to be 90 years old in your bed and regretting it. Man,
you're not going to get any less dates from going for it. And it could end up being the one, and you could be looking back from 90 years old, and it could have changed the face of your entire life.
100%, man. Exactly.
I'm big believer, more than you can imagine, on how the dots connect. I actually genuinely, in my heart of heart, believe that every little situation, whether we realize it or not, of whether or not we're in a place to accept it, is giving us something at a given time that maybe we don't realize just yet. I'm sure you know what it means. Just, you might have that one conversation that you look back on that was almost life-changing. With that, just one last question before I get to a few rapid questions. What advice, do you have a particular advice that you would go back and give a 20-year-old you or a 20-year-old person right now who might be a little bit lost? Do you have one particular piece of advice that you would say to that person?
Let's see. A 20-year-old me, I would say 20-year-old me. That's a really good question. The advice that I would give a 20-year-old me. I think it's important to clarify. I'm freaking weird. In that, like, I went to college and I hated college. Most people love it. They're like, it's a big party time.
I hated it too, man.
Like, I went to college and I, like, locked myself in my dorm room and I started my business. To the point where when I got out of college and everyone else was looking for jobs, I didn't have to work for anybody else. Like, I could work for myself for my online business. And, like, I think I'm a little bit different in that front. But, like, for me, I think if I could look back and give myself, my 20-year-old self, some advice, honestly, I'd probably say, don't take myself so fucking seriously. I think that's something I've gotten a lot better at over the years. And you can actually see the progression. If you followed me, I know, like, you're relatively new to, like, seeing my work, but if you followed me, my work from when I was 19 and 20 and 21, it was very serious. It was very, like my articles were much more serious. Like, my videos were much more serious. And as I've grown, I've relaxed more, and I've been able to show more of myself. I had, like, a business face, and then I had a Jordan face, and now the faces are the same. Like, I am who I am regardless of whether I'm filming a business video or writing an email or, like, just talking with my friends at a bar. Like, I am the same person. And I think that comes from being able to take myself less seriously and also understand the value in really just relaxing a little bit and understanding that, like, I think it's so funny when people, they start a business or whatever, or even if people start working out, and they start going to the gym, and all of a sudden they're like, oh man, I got to be gung-ho serious about it. It's like, relax. like, you're not a fucking Olympic athlete. You don't need, like, if you miss a day, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Chill. Or it's saying, like, relax. If you're a business owner, you're starting a business, like, you don't need to write this article and have 37 references to studies on it, because no one gives a shit and no one's going to read it. Just write your opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think with that contentness that you mentioned, I think what you're saying comes with a lot of contentness over time. It just allows you to be genuinely the most laid back and confident and truest version of yourself and present that to people and let them decide whether they like you or not. And usually people respect that more when you're just offering your truest self.
Yeah, man, 100%, exactly.
Great stuff, man. Okay, I just want to ask you a couple of quick questions, more practical, almost like a quick fire. I'm going to say, when you think of the word successful, who is the first person that comes to mind and why?
When I think of the word successful, the first person that comes to mind is, you're gonna like think this is really weird. I'm gonna go into a story on this because it's actually really important to me.
Yeah.
I don't know his name, actually. It's a really weird story, and this sort of shaped my view for my business and what I wanted down the road. But when I took a year off between high school and college, I moved to Israel for a year, and I fell in love. I will buy a place there soon. Like, Israel's is my home. It's just where I feel best. And one day, I'll never forget this. I was just walking around the city, and it was in Jerusalem. And I was in Jerusalem walking around the city, and I go into the shop, and I go to buy something, and the guy who was owning the shop was like, no, I'm closing the shop. And it was like 2 p.m. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, it's 2 p.m. Like, this is a weird time to be closing your shop. He's like, no, it's a gorgeous day outside. I'm going to close early and go take my kids to the beach. And I was like, holy shit, that is the coolest thing ever. Because in America, that would not happen. Or like in the hustle society, that would not happen. But this guy, like, he has a business. He understands he's going to lose money by closing the shop early, but he also understands that it's a gorgeous day and he can go spend it with his kids. That guy, to me, is the most successful guy in the world.
Amazing, man. That's a brilliant story. It's easy for a lot of people to lose sight genuinely what I consider to be the true values of the world. I know a lot of people, it's easy to say stuff like family matters and love matters, and genuinely they don't really fully believe that, but to see that in application is amazing. That's incredible.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's definitely, and that sort of shaped my idea of
what success really is.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I work so hard now. Well, I'm only 26. You know, I'm a young guy. Like, I still have a lot of time. So, but I'm not gonna want to be working like I am now when I'm 40. That's for sure. So, ideally, like, that is my definition of success, and hopefully by the time I'm 40, that'll be like where I'm at, where I can do that, and I won't have feelings of guilt about leaving the work for the day or whatever.
Great, amazing. What is the worst piece of advice you see being handed out in the fitness and nutrition world, Jordan?
It's the overarching general concept that there is a single way to do things, that there's a single fix, and maybe that could be a 21-day cleanse, maybe that could be a single food that is going to help you burn fat, or maybe it could be a single food that is inherently bad for you, like don't eat this, just eat this. The idea that there's a one right or one wrong way, or that, like, it's so funny, we see all the time, like, these foods are going to give you cancer, like diet soda gives you cancer, or dairy gives you cancer, or like this food helps you burn fat or whatever. It's like, there's actually no research on any of that, in terms of, like, we don't know any of that for certain at all. Yeah. It's like, we have no idea. Like, there's never been a person that got cancer that any doctor's been able to say, oh yes, this was your diet soda intake. Like, that doesn't exist. Everything that we're having right now is speculation. And really what it boils down to is, plain and simple, there is not one right or one wrong way. The only way is what works best for you. And the only way to find that out is through trial and error. And the only way to succeed is to understand that there's one right way. Like, you're going to have to find the way that works best for you, and understand that as you grow and get older and life circumstances change, the one right way for you will change as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. I think that's probably more applicable to 99% of the general public, as I'm always something I would be very passionate about as well. Things change. What's working for you now at 25 will be very different when you're 35 and you've 2 kids and you're working a 12-hour job.
100%, man. Exactly.
I could not agree more. Jordan, do you have something that you believed heavily that you've changed your mind in the last few years? Or one particular principle that you've eased up on or changed your mind about?
Let's see. I think something that is, I think probably the biggest one was, so I was a competitive powerlifter for many, many years. And I didn't think at any point, there was no point in time that I actively thought everyone needed to powerlift, everyone needed the barbell. But I look at not so much in my thoughts, but in my actions. And as a coach in my young 20s, 21, 22, even maybe a little bit into 23, I emphasized powerlifting for everybody. And it wasn't like everyone's working up to a 1 rep max, but it was basically doing movements that powerlifters would do for everyone. And as I've gotten older, 24, 25, 26, I've taken a big step back and I don't do that anymore at all. And again, there was no point in time where I ever thought, if someone said, do you think everyone should be powerlifters or train like powerlifters, I would actively say no. But just looking at the way that I programmed and the actions that I took, it sort of spoke otherwise. And so I think that's probably been a big change for me in regard to my programming and how I actually work with people, is treating them as whatever they are, as opposed to only going towards that powerlifter mindset, which is, made sense based on what I was exposed to up until that point. But either way, I think it's a big shift.
Yeah, of course. I think we all become very much products of our surroundings, and we become heavily influenced. It does take it that little bit of trial and error to literally remove yourself from perspective sometimes and become a little more laid back and relaxed. But it comes with trial and error, doesn't it? It's always with the best of intentions. It's just not always right for everybody else.
100%, man. Exactly.
Jordan, that's great. We're nearly there. I just have one final question. As someone at the start, like I said, you work very close with Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm a particularly huge fan of him. It's actually how I discovered you, like I said at the start. I would love to know personally, this is more of a selfish question than anything else. What's the best thing, or the one or two or three or whatever it is, what's the best piece or pieces of information or knowledge or whatever it is that has affected you positively from working with Gary? Or is there any one single piece of advice?
Yeah, I think it's so funny. I've learned a bunch, not so much from him necessarily going out of his way to teach it to me, but more from watching.
That's what I figured you were going to say that straight away.
Yeah, it's so funny because everyone is like, wow, he must be teaching you so much. And it's first of all, Gary is literally the busiest guy in the world. He's busier than the president. And when we have an hour to work out, it's an hour of working out. It's not like I'm sitting there being give me your secrets and let's talk about this. That's not how it works. So it's not like we're he's just sitting down telling me how to do social media. It's more I watch him, and I think the fact that I'm around him every day sort of motivates me to work harder because I see what's actually possible from a human perspective. I can see what a human is doing. And I'd be wow, if he can do it, then I can too, and that sort of pushes me to work harder. I will say the one thing that he did talk to me about that really has stood out and affected me big time in a positive way is, as I've grown on social media and got a bigger audience, also comes with that is hate and people who are going to try and bring you down. And people who say mean comments for no other reason than just they felt like saying a mean comment. And one of Gary's best piece of advice was, because he could tell that it was really getting to me at one point, he was listen, if someone is taking the time out of their day to, number one, consume your content, and number two, put a negative energy out in the world and try and make you feel bad, you have to realize they're not happy.
Yes.
They're not a happy person. They're not in a good place in their life. No one who's in a good place in their life actively goes out of their way to try and make someone else feel bad. So what you have to do is you have to flip the script, and you really have to feel bad for them. You can't get mad that they're trying to make you feel bad, because that's number one, that's exactly what they want. Number two is they're in such a bad place in their life that the best thing they can do is try and make someone feel terrible. That's what an awful living, what an awful life that must be for them. And for me, that's been one of the biggest mind hacks I can even begin to tell you, because it's just changed everything for me. And like, if I get a mean comment, I still feel bad. Like, it never feels good, but it's changed my response, and it's changed how long it affects me for. I think that was probably the one of the best things that he's ever taught me ever.
I think that's incredible advice on both ends. If you talk about pulling from both ends, I think if more people that did that listened to you and applied it, they wouldn't be as sad and miserable. And if more people who were affected and were, destroyed by it probably wouldn't be as insecure in themselves. I think that mindset shift is certainly incredible if you're trying to become the best, most exposed version of yourself, specifically online, on the internet, and build a business. Because if that's the kind of thing that does hold you back, you're probably not going to get as far as, you're definitely not going to get as far as you can go.
100%, man. I absolutely agree.
Jordan, that is an amazing note to leave it on. That's pretty much all the questions. One last question. Any parting words for my audience?
No, honestly, just thank you for listening. If you made it to the end, I appreciate it. And if there's anything I can ever do to help, don't ever hesitate to reach out.
Amazing, Jordan. That's incredible. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this. Thank you to Jordan, and thank you to all of you always for downloading and listening. Stay tuned for the next episode.